Hi, I'm Chantal Amador, the founder of the EA Project, an events production company focused on climate change. And the Circular Society Network is the community of the EA Project. It's a community of leaders and experts all over the world. We're 215 today, and all of them are working in the most influential industries: construction, property, energy, fashion, food and agriculture, transport and mobility, retail, supply chain, finance and investment, and more. From SMEs to big groups or innovative startups and non-profits. It's a very, very diverse group, which I'm very proud of. And this is why I want to highlight the people behind this network I've been building for a year now. Hi, Rituraj. Thank you for being with me today to speak a little bit more about your journey. I know you do so many things, so let me try to introduce you. It's going to be an exercise, but mainly from what I've understood, your principal role is being the founder of the Indigenous Peoples Climate Justice Forum, but you're also vice president of the US-based Grassroots Coalition for Environmental and Economic Justice. That's long. Member of the International Union for Conservation of Nature and board member of civil society groups in the Americas, Europe, and Australia. Basically, you're everywhere. And you are also a climate reality leader, so this is why I wore my badge like like you today. And you are one of the most active members of the Circular Society Network since November last year, where we actually met in Glasgow for COP. So yeah, I've got 5 questions for you today, so we can try to, go straight to the point, learn more about your professional background, but also your personal journey, because our transition is a human journey before everything else, and we are all facing successes, challenges, questions, and basically sharing what we are going through can help people maybe relate and yeah, and learn from each other so we can make progress. So my first question is going to be quite general. I try to summarize your background, but maybe you would like to point out things I may have missed. So feel free to introduce yourself, your professional background more in depth, and tell us a little bit more about your role and mission as the founder of the Indigenous Peoples Climate Justice Forum.
Thank you, Chandal, for the detailed introduction and all the good things you said about me. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to work with you on the Circular Society Network, attending all the sessions and being a member since November. I was born in Assam, and that's in the northeast of India, which is a biodiversity-rich, early climate-impacted region of the world. I came back to live here after many years. I used to be in a government job, but I found my true calling in nature. So I decided to plunge into working with animals, starting with the greater adjutant conservation, which is one of the most threatened species of storks in the entire world. And then, as an organization, Green Guard Nature Organization is the NGO that I was heading. We evolved to work with human wildlife conflicts, specifically the incidence of elephant depredations that were on the rise, elephants entering households, paddy fields. Uh, that was creating a lot of conflicts. A lot of lives were being lost, and that attracted us. And we worked with these grassroots communities to find locally sustainable solutions. And that continued for a long time. And then I happened to watch an inconvenient road, and somehow it clicked with with what I had gone through in my childhood. Like we grew up in a movement of civil war, like situation. Uh, Many people, like our family itself, because of our family political leanings during those times, were uh, a bit ostracized by a lot of other people who were having different ideas. And then um, so I used to always wonder, like, why would people want to come into others land and have this disputes. And I really started to understand that climate change could cause not only displacement of people but also aggravate human wildlife conflicts, and is a driver of elephants actually coming down from the foothills and entering human settlements. So I had to, find my way in this. Although I was not from a science background, I wanted to get into climate activism. I thought, um, I had to be very selfish for the future of my daughter, my family, my nieces and nephews, and I knew that we are going to push them. Even 15 years back, I knew that we are pushing them down that recipe, and this is going to be really causing a lot of problems in the future. So I wanted to, uh, I was probably one of the, early activists in this entire country. So yeah,
How
that
long ago was
summarized
that?
about. I was like full time into raising awareness and communicating climate change by about 2010. Although I got trained as a climate reality leader in 2013. Um,
Mm.
and that was just after I went on an expedition to Antarctica, and there I saw the remains of the Larsen B ice shelf, and I learned that, well, this is worse than I thought. And collapse of these stable large glaciers is going to uh, you know lead to the ice sheets actually melting and faster, and then raising sea levels. And that is actually the root of the problem of human conflict in my region, with people, displaced people migrating into you know states like my own. And then that was happening for a long time. We never knew the region. These were early climate refugees from our neighboring country, Bangladesh, who were displaced by sea level rise. And uh, this was, the reason for conflict, people migrating into Assam and other parts of India. And, so this was like my, kind of climate story as well. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you actually answered my question number 3. So we'll jump that one later on. But question number 2. So what would you think is the biggest challenge you've faced yourself or observed within your organization, or in the different sectors, the different stakeholders you've been working with during this transition, especially since you've been in the space for such a long time? You may have seen an evolution in pace or change in on some levels. And what do you think is the area you are making the most progress at the moment?
Um, Very soon I realized, early in my climate activism, that people looked at the climate change issue as something far away, something that's happening maybe in the polar regions, uh, and they could not really connect the dots. And back then, there was probably less understanding than there is now of the interconnectedness between the biodiversity crisis, um, and food and water security, and even pollution. Now, of course, it's become much easier to connect the dots, and everybody, uh, especially in the post-pandemic times, everybody's talking about one health and one planet. So all of this kind of comes into the picture. Uh, and the biggest challenge back then was telling people, like I live in Assam, it's in the eastern Himalayas. Uh, we are an water abundant region with, you'll hear Assam uh, news about the floods, not water scarcity. And uh, but the IPCC, very long time back in the mid 1990s, in one of their reports, talked about a potential water scarcity for the region in the future. And this has been, studied, and many other reports have since then been published, and now people have started to believe. But even now, everybody is skeptical. Water scarcity in Assam or in the Northeast, it's not possible. But that's a fact, with the current or projected rates of glacial loss, and the fact that uh, the 1/3 or more of the volume of water that flows down these rivers is from glacial meltwater, and compounded by the fact that rainfall patterns are changing as well. So uh, potentially the entire biodiversity, and people do not understand that all the ethnic groups that inhabit the eastern Himalayas, all the indigenous people that live here, their cultures are so diverse and so vibrant because they are derived or dependent on the biodiversity around them. So people in a living on the riverbanks, a riparian indigenous community, have a different culture than indigenous community in the hills, in the lower hills or in the upper hills. All of us is different. And with the change in the environment, with the change in water availability, vegetation changes coming up. So things that were abundantly available as part and parcel of the culture, uh, very important when you look at in terms of food security, medicines, traditional medicines. All of this is under threat. And because these communities have lived sustainably with nature for millennia, they have evolved to eat a certain things, and now they do not have access to that because they're not growing anymore. It also compromises their immunity, So to make people understand these, uh, especially people who are educated, they do not connect the dots yet. The indigenous people, they know, they have the knowledge. We have to learn from them. We do not have to teach them anything. But that is I think, is the key problem now, because people who are educated in positions of power, the bureaucracy, for them, it is kind of very confusing that the entire world is now talking about traditional knowledge, indigenous people, who they used to look down upon. And now everybody's saying, okay, we have to learn from them. That is the way we must live. That is the solution that the world needs to protect us from biodiversity loss, from climate change. And all these are so critical for ensuring the future well-being of humanity as a whole.
Yeah, I think if we don't respect nature, nature will find a way to humble us and remind us that we are just invited here. We don't own the planet, and we certainly aren't above any community whatsoever. If not, we may have much more to learn from indigenous communities than the opposite. And yeah, that really touches, I guess, the ego that white rich countries have built all these years, especially when it begins with, you know, colonialism, which I think was first brought up during COP last year. It was the first time I heard colonialism and climate change in the same sentence, but
Yeah.
actually it makes complete sense. What do you think about circular and cross-sector collaborations, and is it something you have experienced yourself, or is it something you are looking forward to develop because of all these interconnections we've mentioned already, between food, water, biodiversity, communities? This is why the Circular Society Network was created, because there wasn't a place for people to actually learn from each other's sectors. So yeah, what are your thoughts and experience on that side, if any, because I know it's very new for a lot of people.
I think organizations like the Circular Society Network, what we have been doing to get people together is phenomenal. I myself am part of certain networks uh, because of the connections made through the network, the Circular Society Network. For example, Omni Action, I'm very proud to be associated with them, and Food is Key, and um,
Hello, Liz.
yeah, exactly. Uh, yeah, I think most people in the global north would find it very hard to understand that food security is not about the bread and butter and nice English breakfast, but everybody in the world has evolved to eat different things to ensure that what they have been traditionally used to uh, eating is not only important for their mental satisfaction, or uh, it is, I think it's critical for their health, and yeah, I remember this nice song where one particular line, home is where my food is grown. So I think everybody will identify with that, right? And so this was one connection I really, uh, am very proud to be evolving with. And then we have the other Green Revolution group. I'm working closely with Attila. I am supposed to go and speak there in Amsterdam in the first Amsterdam Climate Week. I think this uh, is all a part of what you actually plan for. I mean, when you set up these meetings and get-togethers, when you make these connections, you want these to happen. And I'm so happy to be part of that from the beginning. So I think Attila was among your first speakers, and then
Yeah, it was the first.
and me too. And we just clicked that day. I remember what made me walk to an unknown neighborhood without the GPS and try to find you in a so many similar looking flats. And then I'm so glad that I went there, because now we are really working together. And I saw the impact that you made with the first in-person uh, event that you hosted a few weeks back. Uh, I think people everywhere, well-established people who have had set up startups, and who are running successfully their own ideas or companies, and suddenly they realize that, well, they cannot be successful as a stand-alone entity. The world is changing. They have to evolve, and how do they learn all this without going back to school?
Yeah,
So this is
exactly.
where circular society comes in. So in a very informal way, you sit in a bar and learn from each other, throw your ideas around, uh, and then look at possible collaboration that is eventually going to change things for the better. So this is amazing work. I mean, I'm so proud to be, part of
Oh,
this.
thank you so much. I wasn't expecting this kind of response, really focused on the network itself. But I appreciate all your kind words, and yeah, I'm sure this is only the beginning. And I mean, you're in India, you mentioned Attila based in Amsterdam, and Liz based in London. Like, we don't only have Zoom, we have so many other tools that can connect people all over the world, to connect the dots. It's a massive work to do, and yeah, the results already in such a short time, with so yeah, we're not that big yet, and with that amount of people, we still manage to create great matches. It's all about, when you connect the two right dots together, it doesn't matter if there's 100 people in the room who have nothing to do with each other. If you connect the two right people together, we can actually create change. This is where it happens. So yeah, what gives you, my last question, trying to keep it short, what gives you hope for the future, and what are you most proud of today?
Well, one thing that really gives me hope is that people are finally coming around to recognize, appreciate, and work very proactively to document, preserve indigenous knowledge, and find a way to build resilience, uh, and work on community-led projects for locally sustainable nature-based solutions. I think that's the key. You cannot have nature-based solutions, um, dumped on people all over the world with one certain formula. It has to be different for everybody. And the biggest hope, of course, is that young people are so informed these days. Uh, they're not afraid to speak out. They're not afraid to come out on the streets demanding uh, a, a better life, a better future. And I think having been actively propagating these ideas, communicating the need for biodiversity conservation, uh, climate action for so long, I feel the change is finally happening. And uh, of course, the pace of progress of global negotiations and their implementation both are still, uh, way too slower than we would definitely want it to be. But I think change is just around the corner, especially considering the fact that many of the youngsters who have been leading such movements, climate movements, in the past 5, 6 years, and or doing so now, will all be positions of responsibility and influence in their respective, you know, uh, careers, and they will be making decisions. And I think that would be uh, a the right kind of revolution, that is going to be transformative for the entire world. Uh, so I think that is going to be uh, huge. And lastly, I think also the changing, the fast changing technology. Um, I see artificial intelligence going to help things for the positive, uh, in the future. So I think the technological innovations is also going to help us save the planet.
Especially with supply chain transparency, control, trustability. Yeah, I'm very excited about that too. Blockchain is also going to help. Yeah, a lot of exciting things are going on So yeah, there's a lot of hope there, and just like you mentioned, the new generation of leader is going to be like really the end of the chapter and the beginning of a new one. It's going to be a massive shift, and it's already starting to develop. Like if you have a look on LinkedIn and you seek for the job head of sustainability, it's buzzing all over the place. Like everybody is hiring these people, consultants, and yeah, these people are going to be on the board in the future, and yeah, we'll kick the other ones out who don't want to change in time.
Yeah, and
Hopefully.
and especially when these young people come to head the political arena, like they already do in some of the Scandinavian countries. I think these young women leaders are doing phenomenal work in Finland, for example. Yeah, and there's so many other countries, and that's the way forward. We have environmentalists as presidents and prime ministers. I mean, that's what we need.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Planet first, and helping us adapt to the planet would be, yeah, a good start. Well, I think that's it. We've done our 5 questions at least, maybe more, but thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And is there anything we can help you with at the moment? Is there any projects you are looking forward to develop with partnerships, collaborations, or?
Yeah, I have just taken up a huge project for plantation of native fruit and uh, flowering trees in one of the sandbars in Assam. And this is again another project with the indigenous community that lives in the riparian area. So this is one area where, if somebody is looking for collaborations on carbon offsets, they could possibly, think of coming on board as well. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Well, in that case, we'll follow up together because I'm sure we have people in our network, or people who will listen this interview that will be probably able to help. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, Rituraj Phukan. If people want to learn more, they can visit your website. I think it's it's Indigenous People Climate Justice Forum.com. I think so.
Indigenous Peoples Climate Justice Forum, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Great. And they can follow you on LinkedIn and pretty much everywhere. You're a little bit like my rock star. I see you everywhere. So thank you for giving me your, I don't know how many, maybe your 300 interview, if not more. I don't know if you count them, but I had such a good time catching up with you, and I guess I'll see you soon, maybe in September if you come for our next event. Keep me posted, and take care.
I am looking forward to attend the event in person, definitely. And hopefully I'll see you in London. And thank you for having me here today, Chantal. I know this is going to grow and grow and grow. This is the future you are building. So I'm happy to be part of this. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. You take care, Raj. Okay. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.